having defeated Kraid, and Mini Kraid, I believe was his official name, as detailed in the enclosed instruction book, I have returned to Norfair, where I spent a brief period just before that battle to acquire the high jump boots, which were required in order to get into Kraid's lair, except that actually they were not required for that. In an example of one of the several thousand sequence breaking techniques that exist in this game, you can get into Kraid's lair without those stupid boots. I don't know why they call them high jump boots personally, because even without those, my normal jump sends me approximately 20 feet into the air, or rather the space, depending on the environment of the planet which I am currently visiting. ZBs appeared to have an atmosphere, going by the extremely brief portion of time I have spent so far on the planet's surface. I now hop across these turtles, which have apparently conveniently evolved to provide stepping stones for me to walk across. Thank you, my friends, for evolving in such a fashion. I have now acquired the ice beam, which I can use to freeze these things that are composed entirely of fire. The enclosed instruction book had maps. It also had text describing the maps. It gave the names of the various regions of ZBs. It also had diagrams, diagrammatic illustrations of various bosses of the game, and other such things. I believe there is a picture of me somewhere, doing something. My memory is slipping on that front. But I do recall, Ridley, there was a picture of you. There was a picture of Kraid. There was also a picture of Teraizo, which I thought was interesting, considering that he is not considered one of the main bosses of the game. At least going by the mysterious statue, which I neglected to show off earlier, at which I have to present myself having defeated all the bosses in order to advance to Mother Brain's lair. I do not know why Mother Brain chose to install a security system whereby I could access her lair on the express condition of defeating all of her most significant minions. Although I do not wish to condone piracy in any way, it does appear to me that it would have better served her interests to not open up the one and only access point to her lair. But I am not a brain sitting in a tank with a ridiculous, over-exaggerated deep South American accent. I have backtracked once again, Ridley, to Brinstar. With my new ice beam, I can freeze these conveniently placed flying turtles. To get to the top of this passage, and enter this room, in which there are crabs, and flowers on the ground, and of course spikes. Thank you for that, Ridley. The flowers emit little bugs, which are reminiscent of the bugs from the original Metroid, which I was discussing earlier, which in that game refilled my health extremely slowly and served as the one and only way I had to efficiently refill my health. And when I say efficiently, I mean extremely slowly. When I died in the original Metroid, No matter how many energy tanks I had, I came back to life with 30 energy, and had to fill up my tanks by defeating enemies. Thank you, Nintendo. But we are finished with the first Metroid, and I will now proceed to discuss the sequel, Metroid 2, Return of Samus. I asked Nintendo why they had chosen to give my sequel such a stark subtitle, but I suppose I had not established my presence enough at that point to warrant anything of more substance. I say this as if I have really established myself much further by this point.
Samus, you've had plenty of games. You've had this. You've had those first-person shooters. That Game Boy Advance remake of the first one.
Yes, I have indeed. The remake of the first game. But anyway, returning to Metroid 2, did I forget to mention that was on the Game Boy, which means that it was in black and white. My objective in that game was to go to the Metroid's homeworld, SR-388, and destroy all the Metroids there, because the Intergalactic Space Federation had decided to genocide an entire species because they were too dangerous for the universe. I personally don't quite understand what harm they were doing, living on that planet in the middle of space. I guess it was because the space pirates kept trying to steal them and use them for the dangerous weapons of war that you opened my eyes to them being earlier in this playthrough, Ridley. In any case, I entered the home world. This also marked the first case of the Intergalactic Space Federation upon my successful and triumphant return from my mission in the first game, asking me to hand them my bombs and rockets and beams before moving on to the next one. In Metroid 2, my entire objective was, as I said, to destroy all the Metroids, and I meant this literally. The sole point of the game was for me to defeat each of the 40 Metroids in existence on the planet. I had a convenient counter to keep track of how many were left. The Metroids in that game were not just normal Metroids, but rather also included various other kinds of Metroid, such as Alpha Metroids and Beta Metroids, most, or indeed all, of which have never been seen in the series since. The purpose of my backtracking to Brinstar and going up that passageway with the flying turtles was to take me back to Crateria.
Oh yeah, pretty cunning of Nintendo to make you do that.
No, it wasn't, Ridley, because this was completely pointless. I could have just returned to Crateria the normal way. However, with my speed booster upgrade, which I am currently failing to activate, I should be able to destroy that wall. Oh yes, while I was discussing the riveting story of Metroid High School, you picked up some power-ups in the game while you were controlling me, Ridley. Power-ups I have not elaborated on. Here is the most significant one, perhaps the most iconic power in the series. Well, one of the most iconic. If I run long enough with the speed booster, I turn blue and move really fast. This can destroy enemies and walls, as you saw. Also, if I choose to jump in a ludicrously specific way, I can fly like a space shuttle in a given angle until I crash into a wall or lose all my energy. Because while I make that maneuver, I lose energy. I don't know why my suit was designed to do such a thing, but it was. Perhaps the true most iconic power-up of this series is something we won't be seeing until much later. I am referring to the screw attack, in which I turn into something that does not resemble a screw in the slightest, and can instantly defeat enemies when I jump. This is not to be confused with the space jump, which is a separate power-up that allows me to jump infinitely if I press the jump button after jumping once in a ludicrously specific way. It seems as though mine is a series of many ludicrously specific things. Don't quite know why that is. I defeated the Metroid Queen and brought the baby back, which I discovered. The baby being the main plot point of this game, Super Metroid. Metroid 2 was a sequel to the original, which I suppose improved in some ways. Namely, not making me suspicious of every single block in existence for being bombable. However, there does not seem to be a universal agreement on it being a quality game. Some people point to the music being generally very minimalistic, or even non-existent, and sometimes downright strange. Well, the original adventures on which the games were based never had any music, and I personally do not derive entertainment from switching on a music player and listening to tunes as I blast aliens with rockets and beams.
I'm listening to sea shanties all the time in my space missions.
I suspected you would be the kind of person, Ridley, who put on headphones and listened to music while flying through space with your wings that should not allow you to fly through space, as you yourself observed in our first encounter in this game. I see the lava in this secret optional area. This very long secret optional area that I'm going through now has lava that rises from the ground and then sinks back down again. I don't know how it does this in a two-dimensional plane, let alone how it hurts me, given that it is coming from in front of the ground in this two-dimensional game. But you have pointed out yourself, Ridley, I question things too much. The space jump is often mistaken for being identical to the screw attack. People seem to think that the screw attack allows me to jump as much as I want, but it doesn't. If I choose to switch off the space jump, having acquired the screw attack, which is something I can do in this game, and this game alone, to my recollection, for some reason, I would find I could not continue to jump more than once. I have reached the end of the long, tedious optional area. But oh no. Ha 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 ha! Another one of your accursed traps, Ridley. And also another one of the examples in this game of Nintendo's fantastic design sense. Because in order to get that second tank of missiles on the left, I have to go through that long, tedious optional area again. Oh well, I can console myself at least by reminding myself of how stupid you space pirates are.
What did I tell you the first time?
Oh yes, sorry. Well, to make it up to you, Ridley, I will show off this area over here that I didn't bother to bomb the door to earlier. It leads to a rather sinister corridor, or at least I thought it was sinister when I first played this game, with the mist and those red lights that have no function being there. It leads to this statue that I was describing earlier, of the bosses. Terizo, as you can see, is absent. You each have jewels in your eyes. Every time I defeat one of you, one of the jewels goes away, and also something quite spooky happens. You may notice a white object careening off the screen for a brief moment after one of the jewels explodes. On the original version of this game, the player would not be able to get a good glimpse of that thing, because when they attempt to pause, the action does not stop. The world continues to animate while the pause screen appears, but with the magic of video editing, I will be able to show to the viewers that in fact that white object is a screaming, howling spirit. Quite frightening, I feel. Almost enough to make one suspect that this is indeed the horror game that the introduction implied it was. There is you on the top, Ridley, looking dramatically different from how you do in the flesh. Oh, excuse me. I hope I didn't offend you by saying flesh, Ridley.
Don't be ridiculous, Samus. I'm not one of those people that get offended easily by any old Neil Armstrong and thing.
That is fortunate, Ridley, because my extremely monotonous voice and obsession with the baby is known to offend some people. Anyway, Metroid 2 I have discussed for as long as I wish to discuss it. Super Metroid is the game we are currently playing. I don't believe I need to discuss this in this retrospective, but I will say that if it were not for this game, my series would have probably faded into obscurity, even more so than it actually did. Super Metroid redeemed the series in most people's eyes, which is exactly why Nintendo barely made any more games like it since. If I return to Criteria, And yet another example of backtracking. The backtracking for which this series is so famous. I can access this secret area that had no obvious entrance, that was not obvious in the slightest. And then powerbomb the door to get in. The yellow doors require the special powerbomb, another upgrade I obtained while discussing the pleasant dance that my fictional teenage self shared with you, Ridley. After this game, I went for approximately a decade with no new games. Perhaps that's the true reason why this does not see much attention. It is simply an illusion caused by the fact that 10 years went by with nothing. It may seem like my series is not very active now, but the truth is, it is in fact far more active now than it ever was before. Metroid Prime, I suppose. I believe that was the game that came out after this, in 2002 or so. That was the first-person shooter, which was a very bold and hot-button topic direction for my series to take at the time. Nobody saw it coming. I understand it went down well in the end, however. As with most things like this, I've noticed. It went from being considered a horrible idea that would ruin the series, to being the thing from which future departures would proceed to be considered horrible ideas that ruined the series. It seems there is just no pleasing people, but of course all my fans really want is games that they can avoid playing as much as possible. This game has reserve tanks, which are not to be confused with energy tanks.
Then what are they?
They are energy tanks that are only used when my energy tanks run out. Yes, your look of confusion, Ridley, is justified. I don't know why they made these separate tanks. I suppose perhaps I am being cynical, but I tend to suspect it was for no reason other than they ran out of space to put energy tank blocks on the screen, which, now that I take a closer look, I realize that much like the map, are also pink when they are full, and blue when they are empty. I imagine that feminists are greatly displeased by this series, which would be ironic if it were true, which I have no good reason to think it actually is, because I am one of the earliest cases of a female video game hero. In fact, it was so unusual for the time, and it was supposed to be a great revelation that I was in fact female. In the ending again where this was revealed, only if the player completed the game fast enough. So I suppose that was the true reason why I was made to humiliate myself and remove my spacesuit on a freezing cold, desolate planet. Even to this day, female main characters in video games are remarkably rare, or at least ones who operate alone. Not only am I a very rare early example of a female main character, I am also a very rare example to this day of one who acts entirely independently, or at least most of the time. There were some exceptions, such as that Metroid Fusion game, which is the next game I will discuss in my retrospective. Now in this room I can access this energy tank, but you can't fool me this time, Ridley, because I am aware that you have set a trap here.
I'll blow the meteor down!
This is one of your traps I do recall, because it actually is extremely annoying. I believe that now would be a good time to return to the high school account. Last time, I read the entirety of Chapter 1. I shall now move on to Chapter 2, Sleepover of Surprises Part 1. One day, Samus and Ridley, and her friends, Ted, Mandy, Robbie, 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006, Helen, and Tio Juan were at a sleepover. Samus's parents were off on a business trip, and weren't at home, so they could do whatever. What should we do now? Samus quizzed her friends. I know, declared Ted. Let's play Truth or Dare. True that, Samus and Co. said. I don't know how to play, confessed Tio Juan. Tio Juan... Everyone groaned. Then they laughed really loud. Ha ha ha, except 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006, who was too cool to laugh. Departing from the script again. I don't understand what was said that was so funny. It's real easy, said Helen, who had been Tio Juan's neighbor and best friend since kindergarten. Helen and Tio Juan secretly like each other but were always too afraid to tell each other their true felonies. All you have to do is take turns and ask truth or dare, and then the person will choose one, and you have to choose a question for them that they have to answer no matter what. And if they choose dare, then you choose a dare that they have to do, and it's really funny, explained Helen. Hey, okay, declared Tio Juan. Everyone cheered. How about Samus goes first? Ridley proposed slyly. Oh brother, Samus groaned. Looks like I'm out of luck, Samus conceded. Truth or dare? Ridley smiled like a bear. Departing from the script, I did not know bears smiled. Truth. Riddle me this, riddled Ridley. Departing from the script. Ha 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 ha. Have you ever stolen something? All eyes turned to Samus as she fiddled with her fingers. Well, there was this one time. Go on, Ridley maniacally stated. Well, I was at Keaton's general store, and there was this Green Day CD I wanted, and I didn't have enough money. So, well, Samus was embarrassed. Ha 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 ha, Ridley expressed himself really loud. Departing from the script, I want to clarify that when Ridley laughed there, that was not me laughing. It was in fact written down that Ridley said ha 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 ha. 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006 sighed, rule in her eyes. You and your petty crimes, especially for such a sellout band. Wow, you're so angsty, noticed Ted. Ugh. 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006 moaned and went back to filing her nails with a nail filer. Everyone laughed really loud, ha ha ha, except 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006, who the joke was directed at. Oh, Coke. I think it's Ted's turn. What the well, okay, cool, whatever. Ted coolly replied with a snap. Everyone rolled their eyes and giggled, except for 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006, who was too busy listening to My Chemical Romance on her iPod Nano. What do you choose? Everyone wondered. Dare. Ted D-snapped. Well then, Mr. Snappy, let's see you snap at this one, was Samus's clever remark. Everyone laughed, except for 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006, who couldn't hear because her iPod was too loud. We're going to spin a bottle, and you have to kiss whoever the bottle lands on. Oh no, Ted lamented. But what if it's Tio Juan? Well, you have to do anyway, because that's the rules of the game, Samus affirmed. I have a bottle, Mandy made known to the people. The bottle spun around, and around, and around, until it finally landed on 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006. Looks like I have to kiss 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006, Ted announced. Ugh, very well. 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006 angstily agreed to. But this is only for this stupid game. You never have, or even will, have a chance with me. Yeah, okay, Ted mentioned, and he sneakily stalked over to 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006 and got real close. Let's just get over with. Then Ted leaned down and gave her a kiss, and everyone giggles, and he tried to put his hands in her hair. But she did not let him, and she slapped him, and it hurt him because she was really strong. In your dreams, blubber brain, 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006, PWND. Hey, my brain is not made out of rubber, Ted pointed out. I'm not so sure about that, Robbie snapped back, departing from the script. I am enjoying this exchange. I am really enjoying this section of the story. I truly get a feel. It actually makes me wish that I did have these friends in real life. It almost makes me wish that I really did go to this high school, and that I had these friends. Especially 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006. I feel I would get along with her very well. In fact, when I did go to high school on my home planet, I never had as much fun as I did in this one night in this story playing Truth or Dare, a game that I have not heard of. If I lived in a country called Britain, I would not have played this game either, or have heard of anyone I knew playing this game, although I have heard much of it on the television. Anyway, hey, everyone laughed except 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006, who didn't think the joke was very funny. Okay, it's Tio Juan's turn, everyone agreed. Departing from the script, Ridley, I feel you would be best suited to read out that line.
I'm not reading this story.
Yes, you are, Ridley. Read the line that says
No!
In that case, you leave me no choice. I have here, on this cabinet, a scaled-down model of the bottle ship on which my last adventure took place. I am truth or daring you right now, Ridley. I have pointed the bottle to you. You cannot defy the bottle, as Helen stated earlier in the chapter. You have to answer no matter what.
Very well.
Thank you, Ridley. I shall now resume the story. Croaked Tio Juan, I chose truth. Okay, we get to ask one question, Samus reminded Tio Juan. What is your deepest, darkest secret? Tio Juan looked nervous. I like someone in this room. That statement brought a lot of commotion, because everyone wanted to know who Tio Juan liked. Except 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006, who was completely uninterested. Is it Samus? Is it Mandy? Is it 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006? Actually, Tio Juan wrapped his arm around Helen, who was sitting next to him, and closed in, and gave her a very big kiss. Everyone cheered and clapped their hands, except for 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006, who was downstairs pouring herself a glass of lemonade. Helen, Tio Juan said after they were done kissing, I've always loved you since I met you, but I was too afraid to tell you. Tio Juan, I love you too, Helen confirmed, and the two lovebirds kissed again, until everyone told them to stop, except for 111 Samus Ridley Forever 2006, who wasn't back from getting a soda yet. A-OK, Tio Juan shouted. Let's finish the game. And that's the end of Chapter 2, Ridley.
That one wasn't as bad as the first one.
I agree. Although the story is quite simple, my heart feels warmed reading about the pleasant evening activities of myself and you and my non-existent friends. Oh, look, it is Krakow Meyer. He was named in the enclosed instruction book. He has 4 eyes. his claw arm, his arm keeps raking the ground for no discernible reason. Much like Kraid, I can shoot him in the mouth and back him slowly to the right here. What will happen when he gets to the right? Well,
I know what happens. I always hate this bit.
yes, I know, Ridley. I'll tell you when to look away from the screen.
I never got back the 2 space dollars he owed me.
I know that upsets you greatly, Ridley. But you had not informed me of those 2 space dollars he owed you when I performed the action I am just about to perform. Look away now, Ridley. I commented earlier that Torizo's lacerated flesh, dripping white blood, was quite violent for an old Nintendo game, but I would say that compared to Crocamire's death sequence here, of his flesh literally melting off his body in the lava, it's quite tame. It's funny really, Nintendo seemed to be quite notorious for their censorship policies, or at least in the old days, but this game seems to put pay to that. Crocamire's death is easily the most horrifying thing that's happened to anything in any Nintendo game ever, if you really stop and think about it, which nobody probably does but me, because again I overanalyze everything, as I'm sure you would say, Ridley.
Yes, I would say that. You're lucky you've got me here to keep you in check.
Well, you're doing a good job of that so far, Ridley, in all of the 0 times you have actually done that successfully. And now, another sequence I never quite understood. Nintendo tries to pull yet another cheesy horror movie cliché for no reason whatsoever, and has Crocamire's skeleton crash in from the wall unexpectedly, and then fall to the ground. I never understood that. Was he still alive? Did his living skeleton swim over there and try to take me down by bursting through the wall? Did his ghost possess his own skeleton and try to do that? Or did his skeleton just inexplicably float over to the left and then out of the lava and then back over to the right and crash through the wall? It is a mystery to which I suspect, Ridley, we will never have our answers.
I know why he did that.
You do?
Yes, it was 'cause he left the 2 space dollar bill I lent him in the middle of the room.
Oh.
That's the reason why he was trying to push you into the left.
Oh. So he left his bill at that spike wall. How tragic. Even in death, he was obsessed with money. Well, I guess together we have solved that 20-plus-year-old mystery, Ridley. I'm glad you're here. At first I didn't care, but now I am starting to remember the friendship we share. It's almost bringing out something vaguely resembling an emotion in me, but that wouldn't happen. As a bounty hunter, I have to keep myself cool and calculated at all times. I also have to make sure I talk in as monotonous of a voice as possible. Now, I have found the grappling beam. This thing is quite useful. It allows me to grapple onto blocks which fortunately happen to exist in this planet. This planet that is your home base, Ridley, which you decided to put blocks on that only I would ever grapple onto with this device specifically made for me. You're so thoughtful. Wee. Ha ha ha. This is fun. Yippee. Kaye. Yahoo. Hoo hoo. Hoopula. Merry Christmas. What am I saying? I don't know. Now I feel like I'm the one being possessed by a spirit, rather than Crockermire's body. I believe that at this stage, I suppose the reason why I had to fight Crockermire was to get the grappling beam, which is, you will no doubt be surprised to hear at this stage, Ridley, yet another item that can be skipped completely by sequence breaking. With the grappling hook, I will now proceed to once again backtrack and obtain more items that I don't strictly need to complete the game. However, it is nice that there are so many of these items I can find, all optional, all requiring Nintendo to create more rooms and puzzles and areas for me to access them. Optional content is what they would call this these days. Probably if they released a game like this again, which they probably never will, if you wanted to have these sorts of optional rooms in the game, you'd have to pay money to download them from the internet. Actually, on reflection, I don't believe Nintendo has ever performed such an action with my series. I suppose this downloadable content that is so rife these days is not really abused quite so badly as it tends to appear. Although the day Nintendo decides to make the player pay to see the special ending for completing the game fast enough will be a day that I welcome greatly, because frankly, Ridley, this probably won't surprise you, but I'm not a fan of being asked to remove my suit and strike ridiculous poses for these ending pictures that Nintendo seems to think people want to see. I cannot fathom a reason why anybody would want to look at these things. It's just a mystery to me. Well, I feel like wasting no further time. Fortunately, I can continue playing this game while reading this story, as it appears in a section of my visor that does not obscure the screen. Chapter 3. Samus is pregnant. Samus and Ridley had been going out for 6 months now. It was a coincidence considering that most teenage relationships exist for 2 months, according to a video. Everyone was really surprised, because they hadn't expected the relationship to last so long. Not even Sames or Ridley thought it would last so long. And that says things. Departing from the script, I agree. My relationships never last long at all. Except, I suppose, on reflection, Ridley, my relationship with you, despite us being bitter enemies, we go back a long way.
That's true.
Right now, Samus and Ridley were at Ridley's house. Ridley's parents weren't at home because of a business trip, and Samsa didn't have to be home until 1 o'clock. Right now, it was only 11:30. They were on the couch, and it was quiet. So, Samus, what do you think of, world politics? Ridley made conversely. Ridley, I don't care about things like that, Samus asserted. Departing from the script, it is true, there is no particular world about whose politics I have any concern. However, the Intergalactic Space Federation, or whatever the thing's called, is something that does concern me greatly, for various reasons. For one, the fact that they stripped me of everything I was carrying at the end of each mission. For another, the fact that they forced me to wear that ugly blue and yellow suit in Metroid Fusion. For three, the fact that they decided that the trilogy of first-person shooter games in which I starred some time ago is no longer canon. Oh well, who am I to question these people? Ridley admitted. There was a kind of silence that happens when people don't know what to say to each other in a relationship. But Ridley has something on his mind. Ah, Samus. Ridley approached. Yes, Ridley? Samus' question answered. You know how? Well, we've been going out for a long time. Longer than the average. And well, I agree, Samus nodded. Well, you know how? You see, Ridley seemed unwhole.
I don't think I like where this is going.
What do you mean?
I think we should stop reading this story right now.
I disagree. I am very curious as to what Ridley is trying to say. Ridley, I understand what you mean. Samus understood. Samus, are you sure about... Ridley started, but it was too late. It started as an innocent kiss.
Please stop.
It ended up as much more than they could bargain for. Departing from the script, I want to point out the next line consists of the number 1, written 120 times. I will attempt to say the word 1 the correct number of times. 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 1 I believe that was 120 ones.
Samus, you're completely insane.